Israeli occupying forces entered the rural region south of Damascus, the Syrian capital, near the Lebanese border. In Brazil, social movements mobilized in 18 states under the motto "No amnesties for coup plotters" to demand the arrest of former President Jair Bolsonaro and 36 others. Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez arrived in the United Arab Emirates with the aim of ending bilateral ties. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrera from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We'll begin with the news. Stay with us. The Syrian Armed Forces capabilities have been destroyed after Israeli swarm drones hit over 250 military targets. Israeli sources assured that their forces have mounted the largest air operation ever in the history of the Zionist regime. The targets of the airstrikes include Syrian Armed Forces, fighter jets, anti-aircraft missile systems, weapons production, and storage facilities. The Israeli sworn drones have hit the Kamishli air base in northeastern Syria, the Shinshar base in rural Homs, and the Arbag airport southwest of Damascus. Other shellings were further recorded in the port of Latakia with the aim of destroying Syrian naval forces. The Israeli occupying forces entered the rural region south of Damascus, the Syrian capital, near the Lebanese border. The forces seized the town of Hina with the aim of advancing towards Khan al-Sheikh in the Katana area opposite the Lebanese Rashayad neighborhood. The Israeli tanks were less than 3 kilometers from the town of Katana and about 20 kilometers from Damascus. According to the Lebanese military and security analyst Charles Abinader, Israeli troops infiltrated into Syrian territory without encountering resistance. Mohammed al-Bashir, a key figure in Hayat Tahrir al-Sham terrorist group, a local branch of al-Qaeda, announced his appointment as head of the Syrian caretaker government. Al-Bashir met to discuss the handover of the executive power, in which his mandate will run until March 1st, 2025. The appointment of the official implies a large influence of the Syrian government by the FTS terrorist group. Sources report that the decision was made after Monday's meeting between the FTS terrorist leader and Syrian Prime Minister Mohammed al-Halali. Mohammed al-Bashir, head of the Syria's transitional government, is a politician and engineer who serves as a minister of development in the government of Salvation during the 5th and 6th sessions. Later, the Shura General Council announced that he had received a majority vote of confidence to head the Council of Ministers in early 2024. Bashir is a key member of the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham terrorist group and affiliate of the al-Qaeda organization. Terrorist groups in Syria have declared a curfew in several parts of the country following the overthrow of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. The measure came into force from 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. local time in the cities of Damascus, Latakia, and Tartus. The terrorists warned the public that those who do not comply with their decision will be sentenced to 1 month in prison. Medical personnel, firefighters, ambulances, workers, and security forces are the only ones exempted from the ban. occupying forces took the offensive against central and northern Gaza Strip, causing the death of over 3 Palestinians. Health sources gave accounts of the death toll, referring that 25 people were killed on Monday evening at Beit Hanun. My partner, well, 7 family members were struck dead due to bombings in the Nusra refugee camp. For over 2 months, the occupying forces have prevented entry of food and humanitarian aid to northern Gaza inhabitants. In addition, the destruction of 90% of the civilian infrastructure has forced thousands of Gazans to survive in extreme conditions, facing devastations and lack of basic resources. The International Federation of Journalists has informed that as of December 10, 2024, 104 reporters have been killed worldwide. According to this data, 2024 has been another particular deadly year for journalists and media professionals. The organization reaffirms its commitment to the urgent adoption by the United Nations of a global convention to protect journalists. In this context, for the second year in a row, the Middle East holds the dismal record of the number of reported killed, reaching 66 dead in 2024, 55 of them in Gaza. On October 13, 2023, the International Federation of Journalists urged UNESCO to make efforts for the protection of the members of this sector. On Tuesday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu concludes his first day of testimonies in his corruption trial. Netanyahu testified for the first time in the corruption trial he has been dragged since 2020, accused in 3 separate cases of tax fraud, bribery, and breach of trust. The Prime Minister is expected to return on Wednesday. He denies any wrongdoing and says the charges are a witch hunt orchestrated by the hostile media and outside the legal system that seeks to overthrow him. This marks the first time an Israeli Prime Minister testifies as a defendant in a criminal trial. And outside the courtroom in Tel Aviv, where Netanyahu is on trial, some 200 people demonstrate and call for the resignation of the Prime Minister. Among the demonstrators are leftist activists and relatives of the hostage held in Gaza. Many critics question whether the Israeli leader is capable of governing the country's aims as legal troubles, an international arrest warrant for war crimes in Gaza, and several war fronts that now includes an invasion into Syrian territory. Let's take a very short break, but remember you can join us on our TikTok account as teleSUR English, where you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. The Argentinian President Javier Milei, during his first years in office, pursued economic judgment, reaching the highest national budget attrition the nation has experienced in 25 years. The Ibero-American Center for Research in Science, Technology, and Innovation account on a brief the budget's depletion in this sector by over 30%, while the one for education fell by over 45% in comparison to the 2020 and 2023 terms. Furthermore, the gross domestic products has been reduced below to the minimum standard values, ever lower than in the previous administrations. State agencies have been affected, mainly in the wages, generating a strong social rejection to Milei's policy, which has caused thousands of layoffs of public workers, closure of strategic companies, among other setbacks. In these first years of Milei's administration, close to 50% of the Argentinian population is living in high levels of poverty. Indeed, the Social Observatory of the Argentine Catholic University briefed that 23 million people currently remain below such levels. Moreover, the economic plan of the ultra-right presidents led to the fall of the gross domestic products. The study further specified that over 66% of children's lives is households with incomes below poverty levels. Meanwhile, key sectors such as industries are going through hardships.
It is terrible, but today I have nothing to eat. I don't come every day, but when the spontaneous need arises, I say, phew, I don't have money, I don't have any. I have already asked for loans here and there. So I have to come here. They take care of me here. They give me food for the day.
We used to cook 13 pots. Since Milei took over, we cook 28 pots, and there is not enough food. The government sends food for 1,800 rations. However, we distribute rations for 4,000 and 5,000 people on Mondays, Wednesdays.
Brazilian President Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva is conscious and recovering in an intensive care unit after undergoing surgery for an intracranial hemorrhage. The specialists who operate on Lula da Silva confirmed that the Brazilian president does not have any brain damage. The head of state was rushed to the Syria-Lebanese hospital on Monday after suffering a headache. Their doctors detected that he had an intracranial hemorrhage as a result of a fall he suffered last October. Brazil's Vice President Gerardo Alckmin will temporarily stand in for President Lula in the official events scheduled during these days. Doctors said the president is expected to return to the capital Brasilia at the beginning of next week.
During the night, he was transferred to the Syrian-Lebanese hospital, here in this unit. He underwent surgery to drain the hematoma, the bleeding in his brain. The president has progressed well, has already come out of surgery practically awake, has been extubated and is now stable, talking normally, eating and should remain under observation for the next few days.
Moving on, in the United States on Tuesday, a wind fan wildfire quickly spreads in Malibu, in the state of California, threatening buildings and prompting evacuations. The Franklin fire broke out on Monday evening and in just hours rapidly burned through more than 730 hectares in a coastal city. Pepperdine University said it had canceled classes and final exams for Tuesday as emergency personnel rushed to contain the blaze. The city of Malibu said in an emergency alert that the flames had descent from the hill across the Pacific Coast Highway. On the Indonesian islands of Java, flash landslides and floods devastated 172 villages, claiming at least 10 lives and forcing over 3,000 people to evacuate. Indonesian rescuers pulled out 10 corpses in the most hit villages, including those of 3 children, while they continue searching for 2 missing villagers after the mudslides. Likewise, the disaster has destroyed 31 bridges, 81 roads, and 539 hectares of rice field, while 1,170 houses has been flooded up to the roof. Authorities in the Philippines have evacuated more than 9,200 people living in areas threatened by the eruption of the Caloocan volcano. The civil defense said 9,403 residents of the areas close to the volcano located on the islands of Negros have already been moved to evacuation centers. It informs that food will have to be collected and shipped to feed some 3,000-4,000 people, as well as thousands of tents and beds. The Caloocan volcano erupted last Monday afternoon, spreading a cloud of ash that quickly rose 3,000 meters up to She is scattering debris in numerous towns and sweeping hot volcanic gases. Let's take our last break, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English, where you'll be able to watch on interviews, sub-stories, special broadcasts, and more. Hit the subscribe button and active the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Financial break, don't go away. Welcome back. Venezuela's Vice President Leslie Rodriguez arrived in the United Arab Emirates with the aim of threatening bilateral ties. The Vice President was received at the international airport in Abu Dhabi by a delegation of the Emirati government and the Venezuelan ambassador to that nation, Nabil Abdul Khaled. The visit seeks to review the cooperation roadmap with the country's authorities in the areas of investment, trade, and economic, in order to guarantee joint growth in those strategic sectors. Rodriguez landed in the United Arab Emirates after her official visit to China, where she held meetings with several authorities of the country and strengthened strategic cooperation. On Tuesday in Egypt, 8 people were killed and 3 more injured when a 6-story residential building collapsed in central Cairo. Health Minister spokesman Hossam Adel Gafra said that 9 ambulances were dispatched to the scene as rescuers continue to search for the many wounded or bodies. A restoration order had been issued in 1993 for the building, which was constructed in the 60s in Cairo's lower middle-income Al-Wali neighborhood. However, the building's residents appealed the order and it was not executed. Neighboring buildings were then evacuated as a precautionary measure. South Korea's parliament on Tuesday approved a motion to appoint a prosecutor to investigate President Yoon Suk-yeol over the introduction of martial law. The declaration of martial law, first in more than 4 years, lasted only about 6 hours, but triggered large street protests. Yoon and his associates face criminal investigations and impeachment attempts. In this context, the Justice Ministry has also banned the president and 8 others from leaving the country. Likewise, former Defense Minister Kim Jong-hyun, who has been accused of recommending martial law and sending troops to the National Assembly to prevent lawmakers from voting on it, has been detained since Sunday.
Out of 287, with 210 yeas, 63 nays, and 14 abstentions, I announce the bill to appoint permanent special counsel to investigate unconstitutional martial law decree has been passed.
Meanwhile, lawmakers called for the arrest of 8 people, including South Korea's head of state.
In this amendment to the bill to urge immediate arrest of top government officials, we changed the number of people to arrest from 7 to 8 by adding President Yoon Suk-yeol. To minimize the chaos caused by the head of rebellion, including President Yoon Suk-yeol, and restore international trust in South Korea, please help us pass the bill.
In France, tertiary students and instructors are rallying on Tuesday against some parliamentarians' intentions to pass a bill by 2025 to pursue economic reforms at the expense of higher education system. Hundreds of these protesters gathered nearby the Ministry of Higher Education to speak out against the anticipated budget cuts. Furthermore, demonstrators urged authorities to draw their attention on the urgent university needs. They attach importance to both hiring more staff and renovating those buildings that are currently in disrepair. In addition, the state's cuts will mostly hit sciences and techniques, The techniques of physical and sport activities, LS stops, as well as physiochromotricity courses. Earlier, the workers had staged a national strike on Thursday to demand raising funds and staff for public services, including education.
We've been on a steady decline for years. We've now reached a minimum. This is the first time in at least 50 years that we've reached this minimum state budget contribution to higher education. The budget is falling steadily, despite the fact that the student population and the number of students have been rising steadily for the past 15 years. And there are absolutely urgent needs in higher education in terms of positions, but also in terms of renovating buildings that are falling into disrepair at a rapid rate.
We can already see the impact of budget cuts on intake capacity and the availability of bachelor's and master's programs. The effects are evident in the deteriorating conditions of our universities. Many campuses are in disrepair, with no funds for renovation, lecture theaters are cold, resources are limited, and there's a growing lack of supervision all to cut costs. These challenges are beginning to take a toll on students, the frustration is palpable, and the anger among students is clear. Therefore, they are demonstrating here today.
We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials. We're on Facebook, on X, and on Instagram as well. For Telesur English, I'm from the south, I'm Ana Marrero. Thank you for watching.